Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're looking at an absolute game changer in how we understand and honestly, how we fix the human body. For decades, the absolute holy grail of medicine was drug discovery. But today, we're crossing into a wild new frontier. We are shifting from passive medicine to active, systems level human life engineering. So here's the massive question we really need to wrap our heads around. What actually happens when human biology becomes an engineering problem? In the past, if a cell failed, we basically hunted for a chemical to fix that exact cell, right? But now, an entirely new industry is treating the human body like an engineered system. If a biological part breaks, we don't necessarily even try to fix it. We just engineer a bypass. All right, let's dive into this. We'll be walking through 6 key areas. 1. Medicine's engineering shift. 2. Retinal implants and vision. 3. Organ perfusion and support. 4. AI and neural interfaces. 5. The energetic paradigm framework. And finally, governing life engineering. The core idea here from our source material is frankly fascinating. The frontier of medicine is no longer just about drug discovery. Think about it. Damaged sensory channels can now be bypassed, organ failure can actually be externalized, and human perception itself is becoming a programmable interface. But to do this safely, we absolutely need a control architecture. That missing piece, the framework connecting the biology, the hardware, the ethics, and the cost, is what's called the energetic paradigm, or EP for short. Section 1. Medicine's engineering shift. From biological repair to functional substitute. You can really see the contrast here. Traditional medicine is almost always asking, how can damaged cells be repaired? It's constantly looking for that perfect molecular drug. But engineered medicine acts way more like an IT technician. It asks, okay, which function failed, which pathway still works, and what new interface can we plug in to restore the output? It honestly doesn't even matter if the original part stays broken, as long as we can build a new route around the failure. Section 2. Retinal implants. Re-engineering vision. We usually think of the eye as just a simple camera, but it's really not. It's a highly compressed neural pipeline. Actually, it's more like a living fiber optic cable. Now, in degenerative eye diseases, the photoreceptors might completely fail, but the downstream neural pathways, they're often perfectly fine. The PRIMA project, for example, bypasses the damage entirely. Specialized glasses capture the light, send it to a tiny implanted photovoltaic chip, and that chip directly stimulates the surviving neural circuitry. But here is the catch, right? You can't just inject raw electricity into the wrong layer of the eye. If you do, the brain just gets meaningless noise, maybe a few crude flashes of light if you're lucky. Effective restoration absolutely depends on injecting the right spatial pattern into the correct biological interface. When you deliver structured signals properly, the brain can actually organize them into usable images. We're talking about moving from zero functional central vision to actually being able to read letters. That is the sheer power of a signal bypass. Section 3. Organ perfusion, life support as infrastructure. Really think about what this actually means for a second. Extracorporeal support changes the entire treatment model. A failing heart or a failing liver is no longer this sudden definitive biological endpoint. Instead, it becomes a temporary systems problem. We can take the organ's function, externalize it, keep the organ alive and breathing in a box outside the body for days or even weeks, and actively repair it before a transplant. It's mind-blowing. Now let's de-hype the technology for just a second, because this opens up some massive governance stress tests. When you can literally separate life functions from the natural human body, every traditional boundary starts to blur. I mean, who legally owns your organ while it's being externalized across the room? What are the boundaries of permissible experimentation on it? The reality is, our current legal and ethical systems are simply not ready for this. Section 4. AI and neural interfaces. Semantic translation. It is a totally staggering question. Both biological brains and AI models represent concepts in these complex, structured, high-dimensional spaces. And there is this emerging research direction suggesting that if we can map the geometry of AI representations directly to neural representations, a brain-computer interface wouldn't just be a medical device to, say, move a cursor on a screen. It could actually become a translation system between biological thought, sensory inputs, action planning, and machine cognition. Now, we should be clear, this isn't some inevitable destiny, but it is a very real hypothesis that is driving current research. So this frontier is absolutely a double-edged sword. On the one hand, we have these incredible emerging directions like AI, semantic translation, and mapping out sensory inputs. But the risks? They are staggering. If you can engineer the electrical inputs through which people literally perceive the world, you can potentially manipulate reality itself. The line between a helpful medical therapy and coercive dependency becomes incredibly dangerously blurry. Section 5. The Energetic Paradigm, or EP, a systems architecture. Now, what's really interesting about this framework is how it handles all this complexity. Because these technologies are so unstable, the energetic paradigm structures the chaos into 5 manageable layers. It doesn't replace biology or engineering, it asks how they stay stable. First, function. What exact biological function is lost? Second, interface. What channel connects the hardware to the biology? Third, evidence. How do we turn dramatic lab demos into safe, reliable clinical knowledge? Fourth, cost. How do manufacturing and scale dictate who actually gets access? And fifth, governance. Tackling those massive ethical questions, like where therapy ends and augmentation begins. When you put it all together, it's like a giant puzzle. Biological failures meet engineered functional substitutions, things like those retinal chips or perfusion circuits we talked about. And wrapping around all of it, keeping it in check, is the EP systems control layer. EP surrounds the technology stack to ensure that a brilliant breakthrough in, say, neural interfaces doesn't cause a total collapse by skyrocketing costs or creating ethical disasters. Section 6. Governing Life Engineering, the 2035 Convergence. The source material points out a massive convergence happening around the year 2035. AI, microfabrication, clinical data systems, and venture capital are all accelerating together at breakneck speed. But here's the thing. Technical success does not automatically create social transformation. If a brain-computer interface works perfectly but costs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, well, it's just a luxury product for the ultra-wealthy. To actually transform society, we have to solve the cost bottleneck. We need platform standardization, we need manufacturing scale, and we need universal reimbursement models. Basically, whoever standardizes the interface lowers the entry cost for every single downstream experiment. And that brings us to one final, truly profound question. Who controls the interfaces through which perception and life are maintained? If human organ failure simply becomes an engineering target, then biological interfaces, evidence systems, costs, and governance structures absolutely must develop together. We can't have one without the others. The energetic paradigm provides the framework we need to ensure this massive leap forward remains a stable, beneficial system for humanity. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.